My son, Ethan, stood in the middle of my vineyard estate, surrounded by rolling hills of grapevines, and called me a washed-up nobody who didn't deserve to live in his house. I'm Bob Thompson, 62 years old, and I've spent 35 years building something my son never took the time to understand. He posted a TikTok video right there in my living room, telling his 600,000 followers that my $4 million Napa Valley estate belonged to him and his fiancée, Lauren Prescott, heiress to a hotel empire. He gave me 48 hours to pack my bags and get out. Said it was time for the next generation to take over. What Ethan didn't know was that I didn't just own that vineyard estate. I also owned the fancy San Francisco apartment he thought was his. And by the time the sun rose the next morning, both were gone. Sold. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just picked up my phone and made 3 calls. If you're listening to this story, drop a comment below and let me know where you're tuning in from. Because this isn't just about a house or a family fight. It's about a promise I made to myself 35 years ago. About the difference between handing someone everything and teaching them to value something. That promise cost my son more than he ever imagined. Let me take you back to where it all started. I'm not what you'd expect when you hear vineyard estate owner. Most folks, including Ethan, see a guy in his 60s, driving a beat-up 20-year-old Jeep with a cracked windshield and 200,000 miles on it. I wear $15 flannel shirts from Costco, bring $20 bottles of wine to parties where everyone else is sipping $500 vintages. Ethan, my 30-year-old son, with his slick suits and 600,000 TikTok followers, thinks I'm an embarrassment. "Dad, you look like you're one bad harvest away from losing everything," he told me at his engagement party last month. Lauren's friends are going to think I grew up in a barn. Lauren Prescott, 29, comes from a family that owns half the luxury hotels in California. She drives a $200,000 Porsche, wears jewelry that costs more than most people's homes, and has a smile that could sell you a timeshare in a heartbeat. Ethan's been head over heels for her since they met at one of her family's galas, and I could see it in his eyes. He was slipping away from me, chasing a world where money and status are everything. The first sign of trouble came about 8 months ago. Ethan started calling my Napa Valley estate the family property during dinners. Then it became my future inheritance. By last spring, he was just calling it my house. "When Lauren and I get married," he said over coffee one morning, "we'll need the vineyard. It's perfect for us. You can move into something simpler, something more your speed, simpler." That word stuck with me like a splinter. Then came the TikTok video. Ethan filmed it in my living room, standing by the stone fireplace I built with my own hands 20 years ago. The caption read, "Time to take what's mine. Some people need to know when to step aside." His followers ate it up. Comments poured in. "Yes, Ethan, claim your legacy. Old folks don't need fancy estates." One user wrote, "Your dad's probably squatting in that vineyard. Get him out!" Ethan sent me a screenshot of that one. "See, Dad? Even strangers get it," I didn't reply, but I saved the screenshot. What Ethan didn't know was that I'd been watching his TikTok videos for months. I saw him showing off the $7,000 a month San Francisco apartment I pay for, the $90,000 Porsche lease I cover every month, the $40,000 Rolex I bought him for his college graduation. In his world, he earned all of it. I was just the lucky old guy who stumbled into a vineyard and somehow kept his lifestyle afloat. "My dad's kind of a small-time farmer," I overheard him tell Lauren's mom at a charity event last year. "He got lucky with some land, but he doesn't really get how our world works. Our world." As if I hadn't built the foundation he was standing on, Lauren thought it was cute. "It's so authentic," she told her friends, loud enough for me to hear. "Ethan's keeping it real despite his privileges." Privileges. Like they appeared out of nowhere. But the real breaking point came 3 weeks ago, when Ethan and Lauren showed up at the vineyard for dinner. They walked in like they already owned the place. Lauren started pointing at the oak-paneled walls, talking about modernizing the space. This kitchen needs a total overhaul, Ethan chimed in. Maybe we can start planning renovations while you're still here, Dad. While I'm still here, in my own house. As they were leaving, Ethan turned to me. Dad, Lauren, and I have been talking. We're ready to take over the estate. You've done your part, but it's time for people who understand business to step in. People who understand business. I just nodded, said nothing. That night, Ethan had no idea what he'd just set in motion. The next morning, at 6:45 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Dad, Lauren and I have decided. We need you out of the vineyard by next weekend. We're changing the locks and starting renovations. I've got a realtor friend who can find you something. Affordable. Something that fits your budget. My budget? I called him right away. He picked up on the fifth ring, sounding irritated. Ethan, we need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, Dad, he said, his voice sharp. I'm 30. I'm getting married. I need to build my life. You can't expect me to wait forever for you to move on. Move on. From my own house. Dad, come on. The Vineyard's family property. It belongs to the next generation. Lauren's voice came through in the background, calm but firm. My parents already offered to cover your moving costs, Mr. Thompson. Lauren's parents. Offering to help me move out of my own home. What if I say no? I asked. Ethan laughed. Actually laughed. Dad, let's be real. You can't afford to keep a $4 million estate on whatever you've got saved up. The property taxes alone must be killing you. This is better for everyone. Property taxes. Whatever I've got saved up. Ethan, I said, do you know how I afford this place? Inheritance, right? He replied like it was obvious. Grandpa left you the vineyard or something. Look, I'm grateful, but Lauren and I have real plans. You've got to be practical. Real plans. As if my 35 years of work were just a fluke. What happens if I don't leave? I asked. Ethan's tone got colder. Dad, don't make this messy. Lauren's dad knows property law. He says family disputes like this don't hold up. We can handle it legally if we have to. Legally. In my own house. I'd like to see those legal papers, I said. Fine, Ethan snapped. Lauren's dad is sending them over today. Just don't force us to play hardball. He hung up. I stood there, staring out at the rows of grapevines I'd planted decades ago, watching the morning mist roll over the hills. My son genuinely believed he was doing me a favor. Let me take you back to where this all began. Not just the fight with Ethan, but the life I built piece by piece over 35 years. I'm Bob Thompson, and most folks in Napa Valley think I'm just a guy who got lucky with a vineyard. They see the faded flannel shirts, the 20-year-old Jeep that creaks when I hit the brakes, and they figure I'm scraping by, maybe hanging onto some family land I inherited. Ethan, my own son, bought into that story hook, line, and sinker. But the truth? It's a lot bigger than that, and it's a story I've kept quiet, until now. 35 years ago, I was 27, fresh out of a dead-end job hauling crates at a local winery. I had $12,000 in savings, a beat-up Chevy, and a dream that sounded crazy to everyone around me. I wanted to own a vineyard, not just work in one. So in 1989, I scraped together every penny I had and put a down payment on a rundown plot of land in Napa Valley. 10 acres, half-dead vines, a shack that barely qualified as a house. The bank laughed when I applied for the loan. Kid, the loan officer said, you're betting on a pipe dream. But I saw something they didn't. I saw potential. That was the start of Silver Vines Estates. That first plot, I turned it around. Planted new vines, worked 18-hour days, learned the wine business from the ground up. By 1995, I'd bought another vineyard, then another. Today, Silver Vines owns 150 properties, vineyards, tasting rooms, boutique hotels, even some urban rentals, across 12 states. Total value? About $75 million. But I never changed my ways. Still drive that old Jeep. Still buy my shirts at Costco. Still bring $20 bottles of wine to parties, even when my own label's bottles sell for $200 a pop. Why? Because I don't need to prove anything to anybody? I built this for me. And for Ethan, or so I thought. Ethan, my only son, grew up in the shadow of those vineyards. As a kid, he'd run through the rows of grapes laughing, helping me prune the vines. But somewhere along the way, he changed. By the time he hit his 20s, he was more interested in his phone screen than the soil under his feet. At 30, he's got 600,000 TikTok followers, a wardrobe full of $1,000 suits, and a fiancée, Lauren Prescott, who's got more money than most people see in a lifetime. To Ethan, I'm just an old farmer who lucked into a nice house. He doesn't know the half of it. The trouble started about 8 months ago. I'd invite Ethan over for dinner at the Vineyard estate, a sprawling place with stone walls, oak floors, and views of the hills that make you feel like you're living in a painting. Over steak and a bottle of our own Cabernet, he started calling the place the family estate. I didn't think much of it at first. But then he started slipping in phrases like my future inheritance. By spring, he was bolder. When Lauren and I get married, he said one night, pouring himself a second glass, this place will be perfect for us. You don't need all this space, Dad. Maybe it's time to downsize. Something more practical. Like I was some retiree who couldn't handle his own home. Lauren was there, nodding along, her diamond earrings catching the light. It's such a stunning property, she said, her voice smooth as silk. It deserves someone who can really showcase it. Showcase it. Like my life's work was just a backdrop for their Instagram aesthetic. I let it slide, but it stung. I'd spent decades building something real, something lasting, and my own son saw it as a status symbol. Then came the TikTok video that pushed me over the edge. Ethan filmed it right in my living room, standing by the big windows that look out over the vineyard. He was wearing a tailored blazer, holding a glass of my wine, Silver Vines Reserve, $150 a bottle, like he'd earned it. The caption read, "Ready to take over the family legacy. Some people need to know when to step aside." The video got 200,000 views in a day. His followers went wild in the comments. "Ethan, you're so right." "That vineyard's yours. Kick the old man out, LOL. One comment with 3,000 likes said, "Your dad's probably broke. Time for the new generation to run things." Ethan sent me a screenshot of that one. "See, Dad? People get it." I didn't respond, but I saved it. I'd been watching Ethan's TikToks for months, not because I'm some social media guy, I can barely work the app, but because I wanted to understand my son. I saw him showing off the San Francisco apartment I pay $7,000 a month for, with its floor-to-ceiling windows and views of the Bay Bridge. He'd film himself driving the Porsche I lease for $800 a month, or flashing the $40,000 Rolex I gave him when he graduated from Berkeley. Living my best life, he'd caption those videos with hashtags like Dime Entrepreneur and Dime Next Gen. In his world, he was the star, and I was just the guy bankrolling it. He never asked where the money came from. Never wondered how a small-time farmer could afford his lifestyle. I overheard him talking to Lauren's mom, Cynthia Prescott, at a charity gala last spring. They were sipping champagne at one of her family's hotels, and I was standing just close enough to hear. "My dad's kind of a simple guy," Ethan said, his voice low but not low enough. "He got lucky with some land years ago. Doesn't really understand how our circle works. Our circle. Like I was an outsider in my own son's life." Cynthia smiled, all polished and perfect. "That's so charming," she said. "Ethan's so grounded despite his advantages." Advantages. Like they just fell from the sky. Lauren's family, the Prescotts, own a chain of luxury hotels across California and Nevada. They're the kind of people who name their kids with Roman numerals. Lauren's dad is Charles Prescott II. She's got the kind of polish that comes from growing up with private chefs and chauffeurs. Ethan was smitten from the moment they met, and I could see why. She's sharp, beautiful, and knows how to work a room. But I also saw how she fueled Ethan's entitlement. "This vineyard could be a real asset for us," she told him at that gala, loud enough for me to hear. "It's just sitting there, waiting for someone with vision." Vision. Like I'd been sleepwalking through 35 years of building an empire. The real turning point came 3 weeks ago when Ethan and Lauren showed up at the Vineyard for dinner. They walked in like they were already measuring the place for new curtains. Lauren ran her fingers along the oak table I'd built myself, talking about updating the aesthetic. Ethan nodded along, pointing at the stone fireplace. "This could be modernized," he said. "Maybe a glass feature wall to open up the space. We could start planning while you're still here, Dad. While I'm still here. In my own house." As they left, Ethan dropped the bomb. "Dad, Lauren and I have been talking. We're ready to take over the Vineyard. You've done enough. It's time for people who understand the wine business to step in. People who understand the wine business." I'd been in the industry before Ethan was born. I just looked at him, nodded, and said, "We'll see." That night I sat on the porch, watching the stars over the vines, and realized my son had no idea who I was. The next morning, Ethan's text came through at 6:45 a.m. "Dad, Lauren and I have decided. We need you out of the Vineyard by next weekend. We're changing the locks and starting renovations. I've got a realtor friend who can find you something affordable. Something that fits your budget, my budget." Like I was some retiree pinching pennies. I called him immediately. He answered, sounding annoyed. "Ethan, we need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about, Dad," he said. "I'm 30. I'm building a life with Lauren. You can't expect me to wait forever for you to move on. Move on from my own home. Dad, the Vineyard's family property. It belongs to the next generation." Lauren's voice piped up in the background. "My parents are happy to help with moving costs, Mr. Thompson." "Moving costs. For me to leave my own house, what if I say no?" I asked. Ethan laughed, short and sharp. "Dad, be serious. You can't afford a $4 million estate on whatever you've got saved. The taxes alone must be brutal. This is for your own good. Taxes, savings, like he had any clue." "Ethan," I said, my voice steady, "do you know how I pay for this place?" "Inheritance, right?" he said, like it was obvious. "Grandpa left you some land and you held on to it. I'm grateful, Dad, but Lauren and I have plans. Big plans, big plans. As if my life's work was just a stepping stone." "What if I don't leave?" I pressed. His tone turned icy. "Dad, don't make this hard. Lauren's dad knows property law. Family disputes like this, they don't hold up. We'll do this the nice way. Or the legal way, in my own house. Send me the papers," I said. "Fine," Ethan snapped. "They'll be there this afternoon. Don't make us get lawyers involved." He hung up. I stood there, the phone still warm in my hand, looking out at the vines I'd planted decades ago. My son thought he could take everything I'd built, and he thought I'd just let him. That afternoon, a courier dropped off a packet from Prescott and Associates, Lauren's father's law firm. Thick, creamy letterhead, typed up all official. The letter gave me 30 days to transition ownership of the Vineyard to Ethan, or face formal legal proceedings to resolve the inheritance dispute. Inheritance dispute. For a property I'd bought with my own sweat and blood. They'd even included a timeline. Week 1, pack my things. Week 2, meet with their realtor to find suitable alternative housing. Week 3, sign over the estate. Week 4, move out. They'd gone so far as to estimate my retirement income based on typical earnings for someone of your background. The number was laughable, $45,000 a year. The final paragraph was the kicker. "We understand this transition may be challenging, but this arrangement ensures your financial stability." My financial stability. Like they were saving me from bankruptcy by stealing my home. I read the letter twice, then walked to my study and opened a filing cabinet I hadn't touched in months. The one Ethan's never looked inside. Deeds, contracts, bank statements, a Wine Spectator article from 3 years ago titled "The Quiet Titans of Napa Valley." I spread them out on my desk, took a picture with my phone and started making a list of calls. Ethan had no idea what was coming. The air in my Vineyard estate was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and aged wine. Ethan and Lauren's engagement party was in full swing. 25 of their closest friends, all decked out in designer suits and dresses that cost more than my Jeep. They laughed, clinked glasses, and talked about Napa's hottest new tasting rooms and private jet vacations. I stood in the corner of my own living room, holding a $20 bottle of Merlot I'd picked up at the grocery store. The kind of bottle that gets you a side eye from a cashier who knows you're bringing it to a party like this. But I didn't care. I wasn't here to impress anyone. I was here to watch my son, and to make a choice. Ethan was in his element, working the room like a politician, his $40,000 Rolex glinting under the chandelier. Lauren was by his side, her $50,000 engagement ring catching every eye. They moved through the crowd, talking about their vision for the Vineyard. "We're thinking a modern redesign," Ethan said loudly to a group of Lauren's friends. "Glass walls, open concept, maybe a rooftop lounge. This place has so much potential. Potential. Like the home I'd built over 20 years was just a fixer-upper waiting for his touch." Lauren's mom, Cynthia Prescott, nodded approvingly. "It's such a gem," she said, her voice dripping with that polished charm rich people use when they're planning to take something. "It just needs the right hands to elevate it. The right hands." I sipped my Merlot and stayed quiet, but I could feel the room shifting. People were glancing at me, the guy in the $15 Costco flannel, like I was a guest at my own party. Ethan caught my eye and hurried over, his smile tight. "Dad, you made it," he said, like I'd just walked into someone else's house. He took the bottle from my hand and passed it to a waiter without a word. "Thanks for the contribution." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, keeping my voice even. "Congratulations, son." Lauren appeared, her smile as perfect as a magazine cover. "Mr. Thompson, so sweet of you to come. We're so excited about the future. The future." I could hear the subtext. My future without this house. I just nodded, but inside something was simmering. I'd been patient for months, watching Ethan and Lauren build their fantasy around my life's work. Tonight, that patience was running out. The turning point came halfway through the party. Ethan pulled me aside, near the big oak table where we used to play cards when he was a kid. Lauren was right behind him, her arms crossed, looking like she'd rehearsed this moment. "Dad," Ethan said, his voice low but firm. "We've been talking about the Vineyard transition. Lauren's dad sent the papers today. Everything's set for a smooth handover." Handover, like I was passing him the keys to a used car. "Smooth handover?" I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "I haven't agreed to anything." The room got quieter. Not silent, but the kind of quiet where you know people are eavesdropping. Ethan's face tightened. "Dad, we've been over this. The Vineyard's family property. It's time for the next generation." Lauren stepped closer, her voice smooth but edged. "Mr. Thompson, we're trying to make this easy. My father's firm was very thorough with the paperwork." Thorough. Like they'd already won. Thorough about what? I asked, my voice calm but sharp. "About taking a property I've owned for 20 years? Ethan's face went red. "Dad, don't do this here. You're embarrassing yourself." "Embarrassing myself? The guy who built this place from a patch of dirt?" I took a slow sip of my wine. How am I embarrassing myself by asking about my own house? Cynthia Prescott materialized, holding a glass of my own Silver Vines Cabernet, worth $200 a bottle. "Is there a problem?" she asked, her tone the kind rich people use when they're annoyed but too polite to show it. "No problem," Ethan said quickly, shooting me a look. "Dad's just being cautious." "Cautious about what?" Cynthia pressed, her eyes narrowing. "About signing over a $4 million estate I bought with my own money," I said, loud enough for the room to hear. The chatter around us stopped. Forks clinked against plates. Lauren's smile faltered. "Mr. Thompson," she said, "I think there's been a misunderstanding. This vineyard's been in Ethan's family for years, right? We're just formalizing things." Ethan nodded, like it was all so obvious. "Exactly. It's just paperwork, Dad. Paperwork. I said, setting my glass down. Let's talk about that. Cynthia, what do you think this vineyard's worth? She blinked, caught off guard. Ethan mentioned $4 million. It's a beautiful property. And what do you think I do for a living? I asked. She hesitated, her eyes flicking to my flannel shirt, my scuffed boots. I couldn't say. Farming, I suppose. Ethan jumped in. Dad, come on, stop. No, I'm curious, I said, my voice steady. How do you think I've paid the $50,000 a year in property taxes for 20 years? The insurance? The maintenance? The staff who keep these vines alive? Ethan's face was burning now. Dad, you're making a scene. Am I? I asked. Because I'm asking about my house. The one I bought in 2003 with my own money. The room was dead silent now. People were pretending to check their phones, but every ear was on us. Lauren's dad, Charles Prescott II, stepped forward, his $5,000 suit looking sharper than the tension in the air. Bob, let's not get emotional. Family inheritances can be tricky, but it's normal for the older generation to pass things down. Pass things down. Like I was some tenant who'd overstayed his lease. Charles, I said, meeting his eyes, you sent me a letter today threatening legal action if I don't hand over my property. What do you call that? He frowned. It's not a threat. It's a legal framework to protect Ethan's future. Protect his future, I repeated. By taking my home? Ethan snapped. Dad, stop acting like you're some victim. You can't afford this place anymore. Everyone here knows it. Everyone here, I said, looking around the room. Interesting. Ethan, why don't you tell everyone where you think the money comes from to pay for this place? He froze. What? Go on, I said. You've been telling 600,000 TikTok followers it's your vineyard. Tell them how I afford it, Ethan stammered. You got it from Grandpa, right? Some kind of inheritance. The room waited. Lauren looked nervous. Cynthia set her wine glass down. I pulled out my phone. Let me clear this up, I said. I dialed Susan Carter, my attorney of 25 years, and put her on speaker. Susan, it's Bob Thompson. I need you to walk me through something in front of some folks. Ethan's eyes widened. Dad, what are you doing? Susan, I said, ignoring him, if someone bought a property with their own money 20 years ago and their adult son started claiming it as an inheritance, what would you call that? Susan's voice came through crisp and clear. Depending on the circumstances, I'd call it a potential fraud case. The room gasped. Cynthia stepped forward. Bob, this is hardly the place. Oh, I think it's exactly the place, I said. Your son-in-law-to-be announced on TikTok that he's taking my house. His 600,000 followers seem to think it's a great idea. Privacy's out the window, Cynthia. Susan, I continued, what if that son's future father-in-law sent legal papers threatening the owner with court if they didn't give up the property? Susan didn't miss a beat. That could be construed as attempted extortion, Bob. Depends on the language, but it's serious. Charles Prescott went pale. Now hold on. And Susan, I said, my voice steady. What if the owner had proof, not just of owning that property, but of owning multiple others the son doesn't even know about? The silence was so thick you could hear the crickets outside. Susan's voice took on a curious edge. Are we talking about the Silver Vines Estates portfolio, Bob? Ethan stared at me. What's Silver Vines Estates? I smiled just a little. Susan, care to explain what Silver Vines Estates is? She didn't hesitate. Silver Vines Estates is a wine and hospitality company founded 35 years ago. They own 150 properties, vineyards, tasting rooms, hotels, rentals, across 12 states. Current portfolio value is approximately $75 million. Lauren's glass nearly slipped from her hand. Charles made a choking sound. And who founded Silver Vines Estates? I asked. You did, Bob, Susan said. You're the chairman and majority owner. I hung up the phone. The room was so quiet I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Ethan's voice came out as a whisper. That's not possible. Why not, I asked. Because I drive a 20-year-old Jeep? Because I shop at Costco? Because I brought a $20 bottle of wine to your engagement party? I opened the folder I'd brought from my study. Here's the deed to this vineyard, purchased in 2003 for $1.2 million. Fully paid, no mortgage. Here's the deed to your San Francisco apartment building, purchased in 2019 for $10 million. Oh, and Charles. I turned to Lauren's dad. I own the hotel where your law firm has its offices. Silver Vines Property, number 87. Cynthia's face drained of color. You own the Prescott Grand Hotel? I own the building, I said. Your family leases it from me. Been doing so for 8 years. Lauren looked like she'd seen a ghost. And the wine bar where Ethan and I had our first date, I added. Silver Vines Property, number 42. Generates $8,000 a month in rent. Ethan sank onto the couch. This isn't real. I opened my phone and pulled up the Silver Vines management app. This is our real-time dashboard, I said, showing him the screen. Occupancy rates, revenue, maintenance schedules. Today's gross revenue, $53 and $14. I scrolled down. This vineyard alone pulls in $15,000 a month when it's rented out for events. Which is most of the time since you're rarely here. Ethan stared at the numbers. Rental income. You're renting out our house? The guest cottage out back, I said. The one you use for your TikTok videos? Rents for $5,000 a month. Your buddy Ryan, the influencer you let crash there? He pays through our booking system. Premium rates, private vineyard access. Ethan's mouth opened, then closed. Cynthia was flipping through a Wine Spectator article I'd handed her, dated 3 years ago. Robert Thompson, the quiet titan of Napa Valley, she read aloud, her voice shaking. Estimated net worth $75 million, known for his low-key lifestyle and hands-on approach to the wine industry. She looked up at me. You're the wine king of the West Coast? I prefer Bob, I said. But yeah. Ethan was still staring at the folder. Dad, why didn't you tell me? Because you never asked, I said. You saw my Jeep, my flannel shirts, and decided you knew everything. When's the last time you asked about my work, Ethan? My day, my life? He opened his mouth, then closed it again. The room waited. So did I. I don't remember, he whispered. Neither do I said. But the real bombshell was still coming. Ethan, I said, my voice low, there's something else you need to know. His eyes snapped up. What? I took a deep breath. I don't own this vineyard anymore. Or your apartment building. His face went white. What do you mean? I mean, I sold them, I said. Both of them. This morning, Lauren gasped. You sold our apartment? I sold everything you thought was yours, I said. I pulled out my phone again and dialed James Harper, VP of Operations at Silver Vines Estates. James, it's Bob. Can you confirm the deal? I put him on speaker. Bob, James said. It's done. The Vineyard Estate and the San Francisco apartment building sold to Golden Harvest Group. Wire transfers completed at 6:22 a.m. Total, $7.5 million. Cash deal, no contingencies. Ethan's jaw dropped. Golden Harvest? He said, That's my family's biggest competitor, Lauren stammered. James, I said, can you confirm the timeline? Contract signed at 6:05 a.m., James said. Property transfers filed with the county by 6:40 a.m. Golden Harvest's attorneys are serving possession notices by noon. I hung up. Ethan was shaking his head. Dad, you sold my apartment? Where am I supposed to live? That's a great question, I said. Where are you going to live? Lauren grabbed Ethan's arm. This means we have to move out in 60 days. Exactly, I said. Golden Harvest plans to turn the vineyard into a corporate retreat. Your apartment building? Luxury condos. Tenants get 60 days to relocate. Ethan looked like he'd been punched. Dad, why would you do this? Because you tried to take my home, I said. You told 600,000 people I don't belong here. You got your fiancé's dad to threaten me with lawsuits, and you assumed I was too broke to fight back. I looked around the room, at the 25 guests who'd gone from sipping wine to staring in shock. You wanted to play this game in public, Ethan. Now everyone knows the score. The party ended quickly after that. Guests mumbled excuses, grabbed their coats, and slipped out. Ethan and Lauren stood frozen, like they'd just watched their perfect world crack in half. I walked back to my study, closed the door, and sat down with a glass of my own wine. For the first time in months, I felt like I'd taken back control. But the night wasn't over. What Ethan did next, it changed everything. The Vineyard estate was empty by 10 p.m. that night. The engagement party, with its clinking glasses and forced laughter, was over in a heartbeat after I dropped the bombshell about selling the Vineyard and Ethan's San Francisco apartment. Guests slipped out like they'd witnessed a car crash, leaving behind half-empty plates and 25 wine glasses scattered across my oak table. I sat on the porch staring at the dark rows of grapevines, the air cool against my face. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. What Ethan did next, it broke my heart and lit up the internet. At 11:15 p.m., my phone started buzzing like a beehive. Notifications from TikTok, texts from old friends, even a missed call from my cousin in Oregon. I opened the app, and there it was. Ethan, live on TikTok, sitting in his Porsche, parked somewhere under a streetlight. His face was a mess, red eyes, disheveled hair, tie loosened like he'd been pulling at it. His 600,000 followers were watching, and the viewer count was climbing fast. 45,000. 50,000. 60,000. You guys, he said, his voice cracking. I don't even know where to start. My whole life's been a lie. I leaned back in my chair, the phone screen glowing in the dark. Ethan wiped his face with the back of his hand. My dad. He's been pretending to be some broke farmer my whole life. Turns out he's worth 75 million. 75 million? And he let me think he was scraping by, barely paying the bills. The comments exploded. What? No way! Rich dad energy. Tell us everything, Ethan. He kept going, his voice shaking. He owns 150 properties. Vineyards, hotels, apartments. He's been in Wine Spectator, and I've been paying for his dinners because I thought he couldn't afford them. The viewer count hit 65,000. Ethan's voice broke again. And the worst part? He's been charging rent for our vineyard, our house. My friend Ryan, the one who stays in the guest cottage. He's paying $5,000 a month to my dad's company. $5,000. And I had no idea. Lauren appeared in the frame, her face pale, her mascara smudged. Ethan, maybe you should stop. No, he snapped, cutting her off. My followers deserve to know what kind of family I come from. My dad's been playing me this whole time. I watched, my chest tight, as my son unraveled in front of the world. He let me think I was taking over the vineyard, Ethan said, tears streaming now. He let me plan my future with Lauren, thinking I'd inherit this big estate. And then tonight, he humiliated me in front of her family, her friends, everyone who matters. He sold the vineyard, sold my apartment, just like that. The comments were brutal. Entitled much? Your dad's a legend. This is what privilege looks like. Others were kinder. Ethan, I'm so sorry. This is rough. He held up his phone, showing the TikTok he'd posted that morning from my living room. The one captioned, "Ready to take over the family legacy. Some people need to know when to step aside." Look at this, he said, his voice raw. I told 600,000 people my dad needed to move out. I called him a nobody, and my followers cheered me on. They said I was right to take what's mine, but it wasn't mine. It was never mine. The viewer count hit 70,000. I tried to steal my dad's house, he said, choking on the words, because I thought he was too broke to stop me. I failed. I failed him. And I failed myself. Lauren tried again. Ethan, please turn it off. Why? He shouted. So I can pretend this didn't happen? So I can go back to posting about my perfect life while my dad thinks I'm a spoiled brat? He looked into the camera, tears shining. Because that's what I am. A spoiled brat who thought he could take his father's house because he assumed he was too weak to fight back. The comments split. Some were vicious, cringe, delete this. "Your career's over, bro." Others were softer. "This is raw. Get help, Ethan." "Call your dad," Ethan kept going, his voice barely holding together. "My dad pays for everything. My apartment, my car, my credit cards, my whole life. And I told myself I deserved it because he was just some guy who got lucky with a vineyard. I told 600,000 people he didn't belong in his own home. And now I've lost it all." The view account hit 75,000. Lauren's voice was sharp now. "Ethan, enough!" "You're making it worse." "Worse?" He laughed, bitter. "Lauren, your dad sent legal papers to threaten my father. Your mom offered to pay his moving costs because she thought he was broke. And my dad let us do it. He let us make fools of ourselves." He looked at the camera one last time. "Dad, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to fix this, but I know I don't deserve your forgiveness." He ended the stream. 75,000 people had just watched my son fall apart in real time. I sat there, the phone dark in my hand, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and something I couldn't name. By morning, Ethan's life as he knew it was over. The next day at 6:30 a.m., I was on the porch, sipping coffee, watching the sunrise over the vines. Ethan's Range Rover pulled into the driveway. He stepped out, still in his suit from the party, his face hollow like he hadn't slept. His TikTok live had gone viral. Clips were everywhere. Twitter threads, YouTube reaction videos, even a Reddit post titled "Influencer Meltdown, Son Tries to Steal Dad's Vineyard." His follower count was dropping, down to 550,000 and falling fast. The internet was merciless. He walked up to the porch, holding his phone with a cracked screen. "Dad," he said, his voice hoarse. "Can we talk?" I nodded. "Of course." He sat across from me, staring at the hills. "How long have you been up?" he asked. "Since 4:30, I said. "I watch the sunrise every day. Have for 20 years. He nodded like he was trying to process that. Then he looked at me. "Dad, I need to ask you something, and I need the truth." "Go ahead," I said, sipping my coffee. "Last night," he said, "when you showed everyone those documents, called your lawyer, pulled out that Wine Spectator article. Was that planned? Did you know Lauren and I were going to try to take the vineyard? Did you set us up to humiliate us?" I set my cup down. "Ethan," I said, "did you plan to take my vineyard?" He looked away, his hands fidgeting. Yeah, we thought it made sense. Lauren's parents said you were probably struggling, too proud to admit it. They said taking over the property was the responsible thing to do. And you believed them? I asked. He swallowed hard. I wanted to believe them. It felt like I was stepping up, being the adult for once. I leaned back in my chair. "Ethan, how much do you think it costs to run this vineyard?" He shrugged. "I don't know, a lot." "Guess," I said, "maybe $8,000 a month?" I shook my head. "Try $18,000. Property taxes, insurance, maintenance, vineyard staff, equipment, cleaning for rental turnovers. Some months it's more, some less. Depends on what needs fixing." Ethan stared at me. "You've been paying $18,000 a month for 20 years? Close to $4.3 million total," I said. "I keep good records." He pulled out his phone, his fingers shaking as he opened the calculator app. "Dad, if you've spent $4.3 million just on this place, how much money do you actually have?" I stood up and walked to my study. "Come with me," I said. He followed, his steps heavy, like he was walking into something he wasn't ready for. In my study, the documents from last night were still spread across the desk. I opened a filing cabinet and pulled out a folder labeled Silver Vines Estates, 1989-1995. "This is where it started," I said, handing him a deed. 10 acres in Napa Valley, bought for $180,000 with a $12,000 down payment. That land's worth $2 million today. Generates $20,000 a month in wine production. Ethan's eyes widened as he read the paper. I pulled out another folder. 1996-2005, expansion phase. 35 properties, vineyards, tasting rooms, a few rentals. Average purchase price $350,000. Average value now? $1.5 million. He sat down, hard in my desk chair. How many properties do you own, Dad? As of yesterday, I said, 150. Vineyards, hotels, apartments, even a few mountain cabins. California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Colorado, you name it. I opened my laptop and pulled up the Silver Vines management portal. This tracks everything, I said. Reservations, payments, maintenance. Today's revenue, $54,672. This week, $328,000. Ethan stared at the screen. You made $328,000. This week? Good week, I said. Harvest season. He shook his head like he was trying to wake up from a dream. Dad, I thought you were just organized. A farmer who got lucky. I'm organized, I said. You have to be to manage 150 properties without losing your mind. I handed him a Wine Spectator article from 3 years ago. The Quiet Titans of Napa Valley, it read. Robert Thompson, the $75 million man who drives a $3,000 Jeep. Ethan read it, his hands trembling. It says you've created 350 jobs. Generated $10 million in local tax revenue. You don't even take a salary. Why would I said. The business pays for what I need. He looked up, tears in his eyes. Dad, I tried to steal your vineyard. You tried to steal one of my properties, I corrected. You know about 2, the vineyard and your apartment. I own 148 others. He put his head in his hands. You own my apartment building? Bought it 3 years ago, I said. The old landlord was jacking up rents. I wanted you to have a stable place to live. Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. Dad, there's something else, isn't there? I nodded. Here came the twist I hadn't told anyone. Ethan, I said, I didn't just sell the vineyard and your apartment to teach you a lesson. His head snapped up. What do you mean? I took a deep breath. I set up a fund for you, a trust. $200,000 held by my lawyer, Susan. It's yours. If you can prove you've learned something from this, if you can stand on your own 2 feet. He stared at me like he couldn't believe it. You're giving me money? After everything I did? Not giving, I said. It's there if you earn it. If you show me you understand what it means to build something, not just take it. Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and went pale. It's Lauren. He put it on speaker. Her voice was frantic. Ethan, what did your dad do? My dad just got a call from Golden Harvest Group. They own our vineyard now. And your apartment building. Our family's been trying to buy those properties for years. I know, Ethan said, his voice flat. He sold them to our biggest competitor. Lauren snapped. Do you know what this means for my family's business? Ethan, this is a disaster. Lauren, I'm sorry, he said. I didn't know he'd... Sorry doesn't fix this. She cut him off. My parents are furious. They're saying we need to take a break. Ethan's face crumpled. A break? Lauren, we're engaged. We're engaged, she said. This is too much. My family's reputation is on the line. I spoke up, loud enough for her to hear. Lauren, I sold to Golden Harvest because they offered cash and a 10-hour close. Business is business. Her voice turned sharp. Mr. Thompson, this feels personal. Like you're punishing Ethan for wanting a future. Punishing? I said. Lauren, your family threatened me with lawsuits. Your mom offered to pay my moving costs because she thought I was broke. Ethan tried to take my home. What part of that should I reward? She was silent for a moment. Then, Ethan, I can't do this right now. The call ended. Ethan stared at his phone, tears welling up. She's gone, he whispered. Because of what you did. Because of what we both did, I said. The difference is, I meant to do it. By noon, the story had exploded. A process server from Golden Harvest arrived with eviction notices for Ethan's apartment. 60 days to move out. Local news picked it up. Napa Valley wine mogul sells 7.5 meters in properties after family feud. Blogs ran wild. Influencer son demands dad's vineyard. Gets evicted instead. Ethan's TikTok was down to 520,000 followers. His brand deals, Nike, Ray-Ban, a local winery, canceled within hours. His phone kept buzzing with calls from reporters, bloggers. Even TMZ, he turned it off after the 6th call. "Dad," he said, looking out at the vineyard. "There are photographers outside." I glanced through the window. 2 news vans, lenses pointed at the house. "They want the story of the viral family feud," I said. "You're famous now, Ethan." "Not the kind of famous I wanted," he muttered. His phone buzzed again, a text from his assistant. "My Ray-Ban deal's gone. They say I'm no longer aligned with their values." "What were your values when you tried to take my vineyard?" I asked. He winced. "I wasn't thinking about values. I was thinking about me." That afternoon, Ethan's meltdown was everywhere. His TikTok live had been viewed 2 million times across platforms. Someone turned it into a TikTok sound, trending with videos of other family drama. He'd become a cautionary tale. "Dad," he said, his voice breaking, "I'm going to be the guy who tried to steal his dad's vineyard forever." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe you'll be the guy who learned something from it. That's up to you." A month had passed since the night Ethan's world fell apart. The Vineyard estate was quiet now, the kind of quiet that settles in after a storm. I was packing up the last of my things, photo albums, a few old wine bottles, the tools I'd used to prune the vines when I first started out. The new owners, Golden Harvest Group, were taking over tomorrow. I'd be moving to a smaller place, a little cottage in the hills, something that felt like home instead of a business. But that morning, as I sat on the porch with my coffee, watching the sunrise paint the vines gold, I heard the crunch of tires on the gravel driveway. Ethan's Range Rover pulled up, only this time he wasn't wearing a tailored suit or flashing a Rolex. He looked different. He stepped out in a pair of faded Target jeans and a plain gray sweatshirt from Kohl's. No gel in his hair, no polished shoes. Just Ethan, 30 years old, looking like any other guy you'd pass on the street. He walked up to the porch, his hands stuffed in his pockets, and stood there for a moment, staring at the hills. "Dad," he said, his voice soft but steady. "Can we talk?" I gestured to the chair across from me. "Always." He sat down, pulling a folded piece of paper from his pocket. His hands weren't shaking like they were a month ago. He looked tired, but there was something new in his eyes, something I hadn't seen in years. "I got a job," he said, almost like he was testing the words. "A server at a restaurant in downtown Napa. Minimum wage plus tips. It's not much, but I start next week." I raised an eyebrow, setting my coffee down. "How'd you find it?" "Walked in and asked," he said, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Turns out it's not that hard when you're not too proud to work." I nodded, letting him keep going. He unfolded the paper, smoothing it out on his knee. "I wrote something," he said. "I want to read it to you." I leaned back in my chair. "I'm listening." He took a deep breath, his eyes fixed on the paper. "Dad, a month ago, I stood in your house and tried to take it from you. I thought I deserved it more than you did. I thought you were just some old farmer who got lucky, and I was the one with big plans. I was wrong. About everything." His voice was steady, but I could hear the weight behind it. "I spent 30 years taking everything you gave me, my apartment, my car, my whole life, and I never once asked what it cost you. Not just money, but time, effort, the choices you made to put me first. I never said thank you. I thought you owed me." He looked up at me, then back at the paper. "These last few weeks I've learned something. I don't know how to do anything on my own. I can't budget because I never had to think about money. I can't cook because I always had takeout. I can't fix things because you were always there to fix them for me." He paused, folding the paper carefully. "I'm not asking you to take me back. I'm not asking for money or a place to stay. I'm asking for a chance to be someone you'd be proud of." I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time in years, I saw the kid who used to run through the vineyards, laughing, his hands stained with grape juice. Ethan, I said, what does that look like? Being someone I'd be proud of. He thought for a moment. It doesn't look like trying to take what's not mine. It doesn't look like expecting handouts just because you're my dad. It looks like figuring out who I am when no one's paying my way. I nodded slowly. That's a start. He hesitated, then spoke again. Dad, I heard about the trust fund. The $200,000 you set up with Susan. I raised an eyebrow. You did? He nodded. She called me last week. Told me it's there if I can prove I've changed. But I don't want it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I want to earn my own way first. I felt something shift in my chest, a mix of pride and relief. That's your choice, I said. And it's a good one. Ethan looked out at the vines, his voice quieter now. I know you probably can't forgive me. I tried to steal your home. I told the world you didn't belong here. But I need you to know I understand why you did what you did. You didn't just sell the vineyard to hurt me. You sold it to show me what my choices cost. You gave me a chance to learn who I am without all the stuff. He gestured vaguely, like he was waving away the life he used to have. I leaned forward, my hands clasped. Ethan, you think I sold those properties to punish you? He nodded barely. Maybe a little, I admitted. But mostly I did it to wake you up. You were sleepwalking through a life I built, thinking it was yours to take. I couldn't let you keep going like that. He swallowed hard. I get it now. I wish I'd asked you about your life sooner. About Silver Vines. About you. I stood up and walked to the edge of the porch looking out at the hills. Ethan, I didn't tell you about Silver Vines because I wanted you to find your own path. I thought if I gave you everything, money, security, a place to live, you'd figure out what you wanted. But I gave you too much, and you stopped asking questions. He nodded, his eyes fixed on the ground. I stopped seeing you, he said. I saw a flannel shirt and an old Jeep, and I thought I knew everything. We sat in silence for a moment, the kind of silence that feels like it's stitching something back together. Then I said, how about dinner next week? My treat. His face lit up, like a kid who'd just been handed a Christmas present. Really? Really, I said. But next time, you're paying. He laughed, a real laugh, the kind I hadn't heard from him in years. Dad, I'm making minimum wage now. It'll have to be tacos. Tacos work, I said. Deal. Ethan stood to leave, then turned back. Dad, one more thing. Thank you. For everything. Especially the hard parts. I nodded, my throat tight. Especially the hard parts, I said. He drove off, the Range Rover kicking up dust, and I sat there, watching the sun climb higher over the vines. For the first time in years, I felt like I'd done something right as a father. The news vans were gone now, but the story lingered. Ethan's TikTok meltdown was still circulating, but the comments had softened. He's owning it, one user wrote. Respect for facing the mess. His follower count had stabilized at 480,000, and he'd posted a new video, a simple one, just him in his server uniform talking about starting over. This is me now, he said. No filters, just trying to be better. It got 100,000 likes. Not viral, but honest. As for me, I started looking for that cottage in the hills. Something small, with a porch for my coffee and a view of the stars. Silver Vines Estates was still humming along, 150 properties, millions in revenue, but it felt less important now. I'd built it for Ethan, for a future I thought he'd want. But maybe the real gift wasn't the vineyards or the money. Maybe it was the chance to let him fall and watch him get back up. If you're listening to this story, drop a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. Tell me what you'd do if you were in my shoes, or Ethan's. Because sometimes the greatest thing you can give someone isn't a house or a fortune. It's the chance to earn what they thought they deserved, and become someone they're proud to be.